Okay, so in the previous episode, I went over the Eightfold Path, and you could say that to understand Buddhism, that is all you need. From there, it is just a different way to say things so that it becomes more relatable and easier to understand to the different people with different experiences, and we all have, differences amongst each other. My name is Reverend Hirosato Yoshida, and I am a sotozen priest. If this is your first time, thank you for coming by. If you are returning, thank you for coming back. In this little series, I'll be going over our founder, Shakyamuni Buddha's life and his teaching. In today's episode, I want to talk about what was so special about the Buddha as he traveled through the country to spread the teachings to the last sermon before his death. And in this is where I want to talk about kind of skipping the middle pieces, but I do want to go over his last sermon because that's one of the most, I guess you could say, very, very important teachings of the Buddha, because he laid himself as an example to teach his disciples with his own death. So, there are countless episodes and stories of Siddhartha and his travels, but I'm going to skip to the last, like I said, because it kind of wraps up the whole, I guess you could say, his whole life teachings, right? His teachings throughout his life. So, there are a few different theories about how Shakyamuni Buddha became ill. The most common of them is that it was food poisoning. Though it was unintentional, some say that the Buddha knew that the food was going to be bad, so he ate it instead of giving it to his Sangha. But regardless of the situation or the different interpretation of this, soon after he fell ill, Buddha asked Ananda to find him his resting place and began his last sermon. And this is what's important. And there are many teachings that can be interpreted from his last words, but I like to share two words or teaching that are very important. The first being his teachings through his own death, the teaching of impermanence. That even someone like him, who is a Buddha, will come to an end. That nothing in this world will be everlasting. And the second is to give his disciple a road or path to walk, as some may wander off into the darkness and would not know what to do. So that was the teaching of finding the true Dharma, the teaching within oneself, finding the Dharma as the resting place of one's own calm, not relying on another for answers nor teachings. Each one of us already has the answers that they need within oneself, and it's not something that can be given to them from another person. So Buddha's teaching, as I described in the previous episode, through Four Noble Truths, that life is suffering. Suffering is caused by craving and aversion. There is a path to liberation, and the path is to follow the Eightfold Path. Then what are the 8 paths? Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditation. And all of these sums up to 2 basic fundamental facts of the universe. And one is, with time, things get deteriorated and nothing is impermanent. And 2, we can only rely on one's own action to free ourselves from the devastating reality of the world. Whether that be deity, God, devils, moms and dads, school teachers, or Buddha himself, all of that can be a mentor or helping hand in reaching the freedom. But ultimately, you yourself need to take the action. Thus, Shakyamuni Buddha shows to his disciple that even someone who has been recognized as a Buddha cannot fight against impermanence and will eventually die. and telling his disciple, who had been finding himself as a mentor, that all along he was just a mentor to help them find the answer that had been always inside each and every one of us. And in Buddhism, that is called finding the Buddha nature. We are all born with Buddha nature. It is up to each one of us to develop it and nurture it and find it in ourselves. Buddha's last sermon was to encourage all of his disciples that the Sangha, or fellowship of each other, should be an encouragement and not to rely on them to become enlightened, because each one of us has the power to reach the understanding of the true nature of this world. He knew that his disciples were going to be lost and confused after he departed. He knew that some would take advantage of the situation and try to lead them. He knew that some would be okay on their own, but who knows? Some might just wander off cluelessly. But with his last breath, he wanted to assure every one of us that there was nothing to be feared losing him, and to make us at the same time realize that if we felt sad, we had been attached to him, and that would cause suffering, and encourage us that all along he was just a mentor to help us reach inward for the answer that was there all along. And that is the fundamentals of this whole Buddhism, the beginning of Buddhism itself, and how it became to be known as a worldwide religion today. And this concludes our series on beginning of Buddhism. There are a lot that I didn't get to cover throughout his life, but I hope that this gave you a step into the tradition and practice. And hopefully, if you're more curious about Buddhism, you can, there's a lot of resources out there that you can look into. And I hope this episode summed the whole idea of Buddhist teaching and what he had been trying to convey to us. And if you enjoyed or got something out of this episode, please hit the like button. If you would like to see more of these content, please consider subscribing. Although this series of video about beginning of Buddhism will end here. And I also have our temple homepage below, so if you would consider making donation, it will be done through the link below. But if you have any questions about Buddhist teachings, please feel free to comment below, or if you live in Hawaii, please come to my temple. We have a Sunday service mostly every Sunday. From 9:30, so you're always welcome. Of course, with the COVID, we have to keep our precaution, but if you have any questions about that, please give the temple a call, and you can find the information in the link below where I'm located. And I hope you have a safe and wonderful weekend, and I hope to see you at the next episode. But until then, I have tons of other videos down there on Buddhist teaching, so feel free to click any one of them, and I'll see you at the next video. Thank you.